Welcome to The Unspoken, a platform for the advocacy on health and social issues in the uncomfortable conversations using people's personal stories. And today we're going to talk about boy child. Joining us in this discussion is Brian Nyambego.
My name is Brian Nyambego. I'm a speaker, I'm an author, I'm a socialpreneur, and above all, I'm a personal branding trainer. The reason I'm here today is to make sure that I share my story to the generation out there, because I believe that there is someone out there who's going to listen to this story and probably it's going to help them in one way, probably, or basically can be in strategic communication or personal branding as well. So yeah, I'm happy to be here at the Unspoken so that I can share my story. Brian is a firstborn at home. I'm a firstborn. I have 5 siblings, so that makes a total of 6 kids actually. And I wasn't brought up in a very, sometimes people look at me and they're like, I was brought up in a good setup. I can't say that I was brought up in a very, very good setup, because I believe that I've seen my parents struggle all the way from, it's like starting from zero all the way up. So yeah, I'm a firstborn, 5 siblings. And when I was in Form 3, my mother passed away. My sister was 3 months old. And that's what has actually been pushing me, so that I can make sure that as a firstborn, I've inspired people out here actually, and that's my generation, yeah. Wow, that is so amazing, because I've gone through that a lot of times. Because you see, as firstborns, we're these guys who I'm going to put it in probably in a way that a Kenyan can understand. I'm going to use Swahili, that's okay. Because you see, si ni wale wase wenye ukianguka chini when you're growing up, umeanguka chini, your dad is like, or your mom is like, ukilia nitakuchapa. So we grow up with that, we grow up, those emotions are inside us. We don't tell anybody like how we're feeling, because you're a firstborn, so you have to be strong, so that others can see that you're strong, so that they can be strong as well. So, and at the end of the day, probably those emotions are going to erupt on you, which is not okay. And yeah, the journey hasn't been soft, I can say. It's been tough, but at the end of the day, we just have to, yeah. A wise man say that when your dreams are big, sometimes age is just a number. So back in school, I can say I never had that person who I could look up to, that person who could teach me something on personal branding, that person who could teach me something on strategic communication, because I needed that. Because at the end of the day, I believe that I believed that I was going to be an author, I was going to be a personal branding trainer. So I needed someone to look up to, someone who was going to teach me something that I needed out here. Because you see, yes, you can follow the 844 system, finish class 8, finish Form 4, then finish campus, get a good job, that's okay. But again, what about for someone like me who wanted to be an author? You see, so that's the biggest challenge, and I felt like it's good to go back to the roots, because they always say that charity begins at home. So it's good to always go back to the roots and make sure that I've impacted that young person who wants to become an author like me, that young person who wants to become a personal branding trainer. Give them something and tell them that at the end of the day, it's about, expressing yourself. Because at the age of 17, I wrote my first book. When I turned 18, I published my first book as well, which is, by the time I was turning 19, I had already sold 1,000 copies. And by the time I turned 20, I got my first job as a marketing strategist. All this needed strategic communication. All this needed me to, brand myself and tell people who is Brian, who is Nyambego. So I believe that is the reason I'm going back to high schools, to campuses for these tours, just to make sure that I impact someone, to show them the way that nobody ever showed me. I believe that we all have something we believe in for, right? And then in terms of age sometimes limits us on what you're supposed to do. So when your dreams are too big, some things are too small. So for me, that's what I usually tell people. So from a point of impact, I wanted to make sure that by the time I turn 21 years, which I'm yet to turn, I'll make sure that I've impacted over 500,000 people across our country, Kenya. And after that, now I'll go globally. So that's impact. But now in terms of age, I'm 20 years right now, right? And then what I'm doing is something that probably no other Kenyan or probably no other young person has done before. So people will be like, at the end of the day, you have a dream and then you have this impact that you want to do, but your age will limit you. So what I usually tell young people is that age is just a number. What you have to do is just go all out there. Starting is the hardest point, but it all needs you to start off. Then people will see what you're putting in, because I've been in spaces, in corporate spaces, where they didn't accept me because of my age. When I was 19 years, I remember the first person I ever met was a member of parliament. I remember expressing myself, telling them what I wanted to do, how I wanted to make sure that my impact reached their constituency. But the first one accepted me, yes. But the second one that I ever, kind of approached, they didn't accept because of my age. So the whole thing about impact and age makes a lot of sense, but you have to believe in yourself. They didn't accept me. I think in terms of age, you see, sometimes, mostly in Kenya, or probably when you look at the western side, people will pioneer ideas as young as 15, as young as 14, 13, 12. Probably your dad has, started a company for you. But now, when we come back to the African setup, for someone like me who's been, brought up in an African setup, it's believed that you have to finish campus, get a good job, and then you have to probably have a family. Then that's where people will give you the respect. So I think for them, they were brought up in that kind of setup. And for me, I believed that you can pioneer an idea as young as you are. So that's where the difference came in. They didn't accept my idea or probably from a point of them believing that I'm not old enough, I'm not experienced enough. Yeah. I believe I'm a biggest believer in the quote, or rather the phrase, charity begins at home. Simply because you see, for me, my mother was my biggest cheerleader in whatever I was doing. My mother was the most courageous person, the most courageous woman I've met so far. But when she passed away, I remember back in high school, then I didn't know, but now I know that I went into depression directly for 2 months. She was my biggest cheerleader, because I remember when I wanted to publish my book, she was the first person. When I started writing articles, she was like, the day you'll go out there and publish your book, I will be there for you. I'll make sure that you've printed the copies. I'll make sure that you've gone to stages, you've spoken and all that. But when she passed away, I felt like the dream had, gone with her. So she's been my biggest cheerleader so far. She was my biggest cheerleader, and she still remains. So yeah, one thing I'd tell a young person out there who has a mother and who has a parent who supports them is that, reciprocate the love that they give you. That's all. That's why I believe in that's why I believe in the phrase, charity begins at home. I'll use an example in terms of, personal branding is wider, right? Whatever area you're in, personally yourself, you're in the corporate space, and I'm also in the corporate space, but it's wider. So I'll use a simple explanation. Let's look at Cristiano Ronaldo. He's one of the greatest of all time, right? In terms of football. This guy, when he was playing for I think it's La Liga, then went all the way up back to the Premier League. Right now, he's in the Middle East playing. When he finished his career, people thought that he was done. But now when he went to the Middle East, there is the Cristiano Ronaldo effect, right? there's an impact is created over there, that now the football league over there, it's trying, I think it's kind of being revived. But now at the end of the day, I think personal branding starts with you knowing what you want to do, what you want to be, and what you want to have. Those are the three key things in personal branding. And once you have all those three things, then the impact will come, because value reciprocates to value. So once you realize that, what you want to do, what you want to be, and what you want to have, then you can create effect. You can become disruptive, radical, and rapid in whatever area. Yeah. What's the biggest achievement I've done so far? And when I think about that, I look at the kid. There's this one time, a kid reached out to me on my DM, and then she was like, I didn't score the grade that I wanted to like I was expecting to score, but here I am. The reason you came to our school that day, like the day you came to our school that day, and you told us that dreams are valid at whatever age, and she told me she wanted to give up in life. She told me she wanted to commit suicide, but she didn't because of my story. I think for me, it's not the accolades, it's not probably the money, it's not the houses, it's not the cars, it's not the clothes that I wear, it's not the stages that I've spoken on. It's about the impact that I've created in someone. And I believe that was one of the life-changing moments that I've ever had, and I felt like this is achievement. After she listened to my story, after she listened to how I've been a firstborn, and how my sister was 3 months when my mother passed away, and I've been able to raise my sister all the way up to make sure that she's okay. So that made her change the perspective of life, and that to me is a big achievement. I've learned a lot of lessons. In terms of life, I've learned a lot that simply you need to live, to love, and laugh. Those three need to be there. Living is in terms of, I'll use a simple quote that someone say that, don't ask yourself what the world needs, ask yourself what makes you come alive, then go do that. So if you feel, living is more of, are you doing something that you love doing? And then loving is making sure that, even in the Bible, God says, before you love someone, make sure that you love yourself first. So you need to love yourself so that you can love others. The same thing, you can't be giving people money if you don't have that money yourself. And another thing is, you will never have a second-born child if you haven't had the first-born child. So the first-born child is you. Then the second-born child is that person that you want to help, that person that you want to love. And now lastly is the laugh part. The laugh part is, it's never that serious. Sometimes you need to go all out there. Probably you've had your best moment, you've been given your paycheck. Go treat yourself. Sometimes in Kenya we say, ambia mwili pole. Yeah. So basically it's more of that, live, love, and laugh. That's been my biggest lesson so far. Regret. Now this is the best part. So for me, one thing I regret is, I can't say that I regret, but I feel like I didn't have, sometimes people ask me, why do you talk about your mother so much? It's because she was there for me every single step, since when I was born, all the way up. Because I remember when she gave birth to me, I think before she passed away, she ever told me that story that, Brian, after I gave birth to you, I almost passed away, but I didn't. You see, so I feel like, I never told my mother enough times that I love her. That's one of the things I feel like if she was there today, yes, she could be like very happy and proud of the person that I've become. But as well, I feel like I never told her enough times. The amount of times that are, yes, there is love, and there is the number of times probably you want to tell someone that, Mom, I love you. random moments, I never had enough of those random moments with her. So yeah.